podcast. This evening, it's so great to be with you again. Um, we've been down for a little bit, which we are going to share our testimony with you, and that some of the things that we have gone through within the past, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Yes, and so we want to share it with you. Our God is great, and He's a healer, and He's a deliverer, and we want you to know that. All right, so we're going to share our testimony with you right now.
Hi there. We want to share our testimony about COVID. We were tested positive for COVID. I was tested positive for COVID on April 21st, and on April 22nd, three more people from my household were tested positive for COVID. So
So it's four of us then.
four,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
4 out of 5 of us. So one of us escaped it,
Yeah.
because the only wise God chose to say, okay, I gotta have one to do the work. Um, so I'm just here to share my testimony and to kind of dispel the myths about COVID, that COVID is real, because some people still don't believe it's real, and until you experience it, then you won't know. You still have doubts about it.
Yeah.
But I am here to tell you that COVID is real. Um, like I said, on April 21st, I was diagnosed with COVID positive. I was positive for COVID. And so I want to take you through my experience. Okay, so
The Thursday you came home, right?
yes, yes. On the Thursday, which was before the 21st, it was about the 16th or so.
Yeah, it was the 16th.
16.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was at work and I found myself coughing all day, and I'm saying to myself, "What's going on? Why am I coughing all of a sudden?" But sometimes I do get a cough during, I'm thinking I'm getting the flu, right? But the days before that, I noticed that during the week I was getting nausea out of nowhere. I was, and I have to keep getting up, and when I'm at home, and just make myself some ginger tea. That helps nausea. So I noticed I was getting nausea out of nowhere, and it's not just after I ate; it was just out of the blue. So I'm saying, what's going on? So then on the Thursday, I was at work, and all of a sudden I start coughing. So I came home thinking nothing of it. Usually, if I have a cough, I will just sleep it off, and the next day I'm good to go. I just need one day good sleep, one good sleep. So when I woke up the Friday morning, I noticed that I was feeling ill. So I called in at work, and I booked off. I booked off saying that I'm not feeling well. My boss usually can recognize my voice when I'm not well, and he said to me, I hear it in your voice." So I said, "Okay, I'll be okay by Monday." So, anyways, the Saturday I still wasn't feeling well. The Sunday still wasn't feeling well.
And I didn't even know that you had booked off. It's when I called in
Yes,
to check to see if you went to work because of the coughing,
yes,
and then you were at home.
yes.
And yeah,
Yeah. So So I noticed the Sunday I still was. I'm like, usually when I get a flu attack, it lasts a day. So how come all weekend I'm sick and I'm still feeling the same way? So then on the Monday I went to do a COVID test. I didn't get through. Only to realize that you have to book you have to book to get a test done. And so I was turned back from the hospital. So then I thought, no, that's weird. So I called my doctor, and I said, I wanted to book a vaccine, a COVID
COVID
test,
test. Yeah.
and I wouldn't get an appointment until the Wednesday. and that I would have to go to Toronto to get a test. So the doctor advised me to go to the emergency, and they will do the test there. So on the Tuesday, I went to the emergency, and
And we didn't go to the hospital, the civic hospital. We went to Georgetown because that hospital there it's less crowded, and and if it's less crowded, then you're gonna get better attention. So I
yes,
decided that I would bring you to that hospital.
yes, because were you off that day?
Yes, because I the Sunday
Yes,
I started having some form of symptom, which is fever. And I'm saying, where does this fever come from? So that's when I got up early Monday morning and I called my workplace to tell them that I was going to book off because I wasn't feeling well and because I had the fever.
yes,
And so that's when I decided that I'm going to take you in to the hospital so that they can check you out. And after taking you to the hospital, I felt better, and I decided that I'm gonna book back on for work.
yeah.
And then after taking you to the hospital, then yeah,
Yes. So I went to the hospital. I noticed while I'm sitting there, I'm getting the fever. I had a fever, and I'm resting on the chair, and I just wasn't feeling well. And so they brought me in and realized I had a fever, and they did my vitals. They did my tests. They did two tests on me, two COVID tests. One was the rapid one, and the second one was a 24-hour test. So they did both, and they gave me Tylenol 3. The doctor said that's for your fever, and so I took that, and I guess the fever kind of came down, but I wasn't
but you
feeling.
were positive when the doctor told you that you were positive on
Yes.
the spot.
So after they did that test, and I'm waiting for the result, the doctor came back and said, "You have tested positive for COVID." So they also did an X-ray on my chest to see what my chest looked like, because usually with COVID, you get chest infection and all that. But I thank God that I didn't have any chest infections and all that. All my vital signs were good, but the doctor looked at me and said, "You have COVID." And all I could say to the doctor, I was in silence, in shock. I said to doctor, "Me, Donnet, has COVID. Me, Donnet, who is so careful about everything, has COVID." And I could see the compassion in his eyes. I remember it to this day. He looked at me, and he shook it and said yes. And I said, "Wow, I have COVID." And he said, "We'll do another test, but usually when the rapid test is positive, it's more than likely that the 24-hour test will also be positive." So we came home, and then after we came home, we decided that everybody had to go take a test,
Yeah,
right?
because
Hmm.
we are in contact with you
Yeah.
because we live here with you.
Hmm.
So obviously, that's it. The first thing that they're going to tell us is that
Hmm.
we have to uh, get tested. So the following day,
The
um,
following day, okay, this is day number 6 since I had the symptoms. Day number 6, um, I got up and had a little bit of breakfast, because by now I'm losing my appetite. So I forced some breakfast, and I just went to take a nap. And the rest of the family had to go and do their COVID test. So I was alone home. I was alone home at that time, and so I was sleeping, and then I woke up, and I felt like I wanted to go to the washroom. I kind of felt like I had the stomach flu at that point. So I I got up to go to the washroom, And when I got up, I know something was drastically wrong. It's like was there was a boiling pot in my stomach. My stomach started to boil over, and I start to heat up. I start to heat up. So I went to the bathroom and I sat down. And the feeling that overtook me was so overwhelming. I'm like, what is happening right now? So I sat down and I felt nauseous. I felt everything all at once. I felt nauseous. I felt like diarrhea. I felt like I was heat, extreme heat. I was so hot. I was sweating. So I sat down and I just passed out. I passed out and only to wake up and find my head against the vanity in my washroom. My head was against it. I had a swollen it from it because I fell over and the vanity luckily caught me, but had hit my lips. So when I woke up, I'm like confused. What's happening? So I was so hot and sweating at this point. I kind of pushed myself and lied flat on the ground because I needed the tile to cool me down. I was just covered in sweat. And so my son, he had driven separately. Um,
Let me tell you about that. Uh, when we left her, we thought that everything was okay. So it's only going to take maybe an hour or so. And for some reason, um, the elder son, well, the second son, he drove his own car, and I'm saying to myself, why did he why did he have to do that? The rest of us, we're traveling together, and he's not traveling with us. But I tell you, oh, God is amazing. He drove by himself, and then when we got there, we all got the test. And coming back home, coming back home, um, he decided that he's going to leave us and rush to get home. He didn't tell us that, but we could see he was rushing to get home. And then on my way home, I got a call from him saying that, Dad, you got to come. Don't stop anywhere. Rush to get home because Mom is not doing well. And I felt something in my head, in my heart, in my chest. I mean, what's going on? She's not doing. I mean, we left, and yes, she was coughing, and but at that time she wasn't. So what could have happened? So, anyways, right after I got home, I rushed inside, and to my surprise, she was on the floor, sweating, covered in water, in sweat. That was scary. That was really extremely scary. And that was scary for all of us because all of us went to do the test. And when we got home, um, Donnet is on the floor. Their mom is on the floor. And this is unusual because 36 years of marriage, I've never seen her sick. I mean, apart from little flu and, these are the things, but not to the point where she's blacked out. So I asked her if she's all right. If I mean, we're all there touching one another, figuring out. So I went over and I make sure that she's not unconscious, and she was conscious and said she's okay. So I said to her, "Get okay. Let me help you up." And she said, "No, I want to stay lying down because it's cooler on the tile to cool her down." So my son said, "Call the ambulance." And I said, "You're right." Bang. And I started dialing for the ambulance. And I called 911, and the fire truck got here in about 5 minutes.
yeah, it was
That
quick,
was really fast.
really quick.
Yes, and the guy was very nice. he came inside and he tried to make sure that she's okay. And then he said, no, no, you can't stay down on the floor. We're going to get you up. And Dawn had put a little bit of resistance there, but he said, no, 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 you're going to get up. So we got a chair, put her in the chair, and I was scared. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I was scared because I've never seen this before. So, you know, we can say all we want. We can be a macho man. We can be a Christian giant. We can say whatever we want to say, but we are human beings, and humans get afraid or scared when they don't understand what's going on and they don't have control over the situation. So maybe you can tell us what happened when they started.
Well, I'm on the floor, and the only thing I'm thinking, because social media and whatever, they have a lot to say. Some of it is foolishness, of course. From my experience, I can tell you can't go by social media. So, anyways, I'm on the floor, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm breathing properly. Oh, I don't have any problem breathing, which was a light for me, because once you have breathing problem, then you have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I thank God that I didn't get to the point where I had breathing problem. So that was my lifeline. I was breathing properly. I was feeling really weak, because when the paramedics came in and said, "Can you get up?" and I tried to push myself up, I had nothing, no strength whatsoever. So he and Fitz had to lift me up off the ground, because I tried to push up and I'm like, wow, not even any strength. So when they came in, I was just covered in sweat. They try to, when they stick all those tapes on
They
you.
were doing an ECG.
Yeah.
test.
So they were sticking in, and they just keep falling off. So they had to get a towel and wipe me down to get the thing to stay on me. So I was that badly sweating. Yeah. And I heard the guy saying, "It won't stay on. It won't stay on." So I pointed him to a towel to kind of wipe me down, because once I got up, I started to slowly get revived once I got up off the floor. And so that was the scared moment. But like I said, the lifeline for me is to find out that I had no problem breathing. I didn't have shortness of breath at that moment. I was just had totally no energy. I was totally drained. So yeah, COVID does do a number on your body. So thank God that we got that far. And so the days ahead were even more rough. So on day 6, I took a turn for the worst, and the days ahead were really, were really rough. I had to fight through feeding myself, because now I lost my appetite. I was feeling weak. Nothing tastes good to me, so I had to actually force food in my mouth. And the most of what I could eat was chicken noodle, not Jamaican chicken noodle. Jamaican soup has big stuff in it. I could barely
You
eat
just need broth.
just the broth, because I could barely eat the noodles. I said to myself, why is it taking me so long to swallow the noodles? Because I'm there chewing, and noodles is two chews and it's down. I find myself struggling just to chew the noodles. So half the time I couldn't finish the noodles. I just drained out the broth, and I drank a lot of teas. And just to stick something here about, people have all kind of remedies to tell you when you're in COVID, but they don't really help. I'm going to tell you why. If your body was not in the right place in the first place, all these remedies, they're not going to suddenly,
That's right.
they're not going to suddenly help you. So I would say how to fight COVID is to really build your body from now. Because when you're in it, nothing works. I'm telling you, nothing works. Nothing works. So every time I had chicken noodle soup, I said to Fitz, put some garlic and some spinach in it because I need substance in the body. And when you have no appetite, you have to be drawing from so and you pretty much have to be trying to get extra nutrients, but you have no appetite to swallow anything, and you could take 2 or 3 spoons of something, and but if your body was not built in the first place, survival is even really harder on the body.
And let me also jump in here by saying, during this time, um, I had COVID, but there was hardly any symptoms. Well, there was symptoms like a little bit of fever here and there, but I was still up and about. I called my workplace and I told them that um, we were told that we had to go through isolation for 14 days, 10 days, 14 days, somewhere there, and they said okay. But during that time, I was able to be up and about, taking care of her, making sure that she gets something, some tea or whatever she needs. Um, but the coughing started to get worse, in my estimation.
Yeah.
The ambulance attendants, they were saying, well, what should we do? Because the vital signs are good. So she said she didn't want to go to the hospital, and I agreed with her on that. So she stayed home, and we did what was necessary to keep her going. But at that time, I didn't feel that ill until 2 days before the quarantine is lifted. That's when I start to get sick. And so now both of us are now sick. I remember she was coughing so bad that I thought that her chest was just going to burst open. And I end up went off to sleep. She was still coughing, I assume. Then about 2 o'clock that morning, in the morning, I heard a voice said, "Get up." And I got up, and the voice said, "Go downstairs." And I went downstairs, not saying anything. I didn't even know if she knew that I was up and if I left the room. But I know that somebody was talking to me, and I could hear it in my head. And so I went downstairs, and the voice said, "Pour some oil into a container." And of course, the scripture tells us that in, I believe it's Peter chapter 5, it says that if somebody, because we're Christians, and if someone is sick, they should call the elders of the church, and that the church would pour oil and anoint these people, and they would be delivered from their illness. That's what the scripture says, and it's in, sorry, not Peter, but James chapter 5. And so I did all of that because I know that scripture very well. And so I hold up the oil like this and said, "God, I'm asking you now to touch this oil, because the oil represents your spirit, your Holy Spirit. And you command us in your word that we should do that." And I brought, while coming back up with the oil in the container, the voice said, "Anoint the room doors." the doors of each room. And I did that. And then I took it inside and I anointed Dawnet's head and her chest. And I prayed with her and says, God, we are your children. And you said that whatever we need, you will do it for us. And by your stripes, we are healed. And believe me, I went off to bed with the assurance, because when I did what I was told to do by the Spirit of God, I felt a shift, like something just shift. And you might be asking, what shifting you talk? I mean, something in the spirit realm just shifted. It shifted. That means all of us are going to be well. We're going to be okay.
Yes.
Dawn had told me the next day that she slept after I prayed for her and anointed her with oil. No more coughing. She slept right through until the next day.
Yes.
You want to pick up from there?
Yes. So when he came back and started praying, I know I felt the Spirit, because all of a sudden I started to smile. I felt myself just smiling in the midst of my sickness. I felt the switch. I smiled my way back into sleep, and I slept the rest of the night until the next morning. And like Fitz says, when God intervenes, something's happened, because in every situation, we're not exempt from sickness and so on and so on.
That's right.
But the devil has a way to sneak in and make a situation worse.
Yeah.
And that's why God had to intervene and said, that's enough. You're not going any further. This is as far as you will go with them, because I have commanded the sickness to turn around right now.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people that die from COVID.
Yes.
Believe it or not, people just go in and they just die from it. But God says it's not gonna happen today.
Yes,
Not
right.
here, not now. And I really every day, sometimes I have problems falling asleep. The way I am worshiping and appreciating God for intervening,
right.
because
Amen.
COVID could go either way, okay? It's not one of those, it's not like the flu, okay? Okay, it has the symptoms of the flu, but multiply that a few times, because I've had flu before, but nothing like that. Because a flu after 3 days, a flu for me lasts 1 or 2 days.
That's right.
This one lasted
3 weeks.
4
Or
actually.
4 weeks. Okay.
4 weeks before we could get back to normal. So I'm saying COVID is the real deal, and I don't know where I picked it up. Honestly, the careful girl I am at work, because my coworker says
It could be even me.
yeah, it could be
I'm
you.
a frontline worker.
Yeah, it could
it
be
could
you.
be me.
Yeah.
It could be the other, my other sons who live here. We don't know, and the doctors couldn't tell us, well, it came through you or through you. 'Cause,
Right.
during the time, they connected with us and tell us that don't do this, don't isolate, do this, but none of them were able to say, here is, use this for a remedy, because they don't have a remedy for COVID apart from the vaccine. And so the doctors were unable to tell us. Good thing for us that we had a Christian friend who was a nurse, Rosie Clark.
Yes.
I have to call her name. She called every day just to see how we were doing. I remember at one point, Dawn had said she felt a little bit of tingling in her fingers, and I said, to her and she said, take me to the hospital. I said, are you sure? It so happened that Rosie called. And I said, Rosie, what do you think? You think I should take her to the hospital because she's feeling this tingling in her finger? And she said, no, don't take her to the hospital. Keep her home because all you're going to do is pay the ambulance fee and the result is not going to be any different. So just monitor the situation, give her, you know, and then we decided that, look, we all had that problem at one point or another. I have it. If I sleep on my arm a little bit longer than I'm supposed to, you kind of get that tingling in your finger. If the pain was moving up and about, then that's when there would be some form of concerns. It wasn't so with her. So we kept her home, and in a few hours, the tingling was gone.
Yes, so the effect of COVID on your body. That's why I said previously, you need to take care, eat a healthy meal every day, because if you don't have that, the effect of COVID on your body is very draining. Because I had to say to Fitz, this thing has a personality, because sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel a little bit of energy, and by noon you're just drained and feel completely different. Like, or you might get up and feeling not so good, and then the day you start to feel better. So it keeps switching on us. Like, some days, I remember one Sunday we woke up and we decided that we're going outside, and so we were on our deck, and all of a sudden we start to get sick, and just from standing out in the sun, and we had to come back in, and I was like down for the whole day, just from getting up and going outside. So it does impact your body in a lot of way. It took us about 3 weeks before we can start eating normal food, and your appetite change. The thing you enjoy today, tomorrow you're just turned off from it. So it's a one day at a time. But all along, I know, I remember one Sunday morning waking up and I was feeling so sick, and I start to talk to the Lord, and the tears keep coming. And Fitz walked in the room because he normally checks up on me to say if I need anything, and I usually don't stay in my room, but I didn't make it downstairs yet. And he says, are you okay? And I said, no, I just feel sick. That time I was praying, talking to the Lord, and the tears were coming down, and I just sat on my chair and said, I just don't feel good. And I really thank God, because it's really stood up with me and checked on me, make sure that whatever I need, he gave it to me. And I really thank God too, because he wasn't down when I was down. So he was able to help out and said, okay, I'll make it for you, or I'll do that, because I couldn't stand up to do anything. Soon as I stand up to do anything, I would get dizzy and weak, so I had to sit down. So I could barely help myself. I could move around, but to do any substantial thing, it actually took 4 weeks to get back to normal, like I said. And in the midst of it, God intervened. The worst thing I had to was I was coughing and getting shortness of breath. So when I called the doctor says, if you're going to take, and we don't give anything for the cough, because it could turn into an infection. So he said, if you have to take anything, take the cough syrup one time for the day, because we don't want this cough to turn into an infection. So as you can know, when I had called my doctor and said I was positive, he said to me, okay, get a thermometer in order to measure the fever and he also get something to measure my oxygen level. Those are the two things he told me to get. There was no remedy, there was no medication, there was nothing. So you really have to rely on God and just natural remedies
Yes.
like drinking your teas and so on. But my total reliance was on God because after not eating for 2 weeks, I mean, what do you have in your body to keep you going, right? So this really is a testimony to let people know that don't play with COVID.
It's real. It's
Don't
real.
because I was talking to a co-worker the other day, not a co-worker but one of the clients, and I said to him, "Are you keeping safe?" And he says, "Oh, they're making COVID worse than it. COVID is not as bad as they say." I said, "Hello." I was so happy to report to him that I had COVID, and yes, it's worse. It's as bad as they say, and it is as bad as they say, and they're telling you based on people's personal experience. So I gave him my my experience, and he said to me, "Wow, I don't know anyone that had it." So not because you don't know anyone that had COVID, it doesn't mean it's not real. I also, when I was tested positive, I told some people, and one of them said to me, I described my symptoms. I was having headache, fever. Oh, did I mention the backache? The backache was excruciating. Okay, your head down to your waist. The pain there is excruciating, and I described my symptoms, and he casually said, "Oh, he's living in denial, of course." Oh, it sounds like you have the flu, because I told them I was tested positive for COVID. Um, oh, sounds like you're having the flu. Oh, drink some ginger, some turmeric, and some garlic, and you'll be good at fine in no time. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I said I've been doing that. I didn't bother even get into it that this is not any flu. There is no flu like this, people. I'm telling you, it's flu-like symptoms, but it is nowhere near the flu. I'm telling you, I've been there. I have been there. At times, I remember going through the cough, and I had a lot of shortness of breath. And well, the doctor said the only thing I can do is take puffer. I would go down the stairs and I had to rest. Coming up, I had to take a rest halfway through and catch my breath. And then I had to go again. And then when I reach in my room, I had to sit down and catch my breath. So those are the things that I was experiencing through the cough. And it's what, 6 weeks now? I'm still dealing with that cough. I don't get shortness of breath, but I still deal with that cough. I'm still dealing with it.
Let me also say that there, for me, there are some things that works, and I want to thank my brother and his wife because they sent from the United States a variety of teas that came from India. And for me, whenever I drink the teas, it really calm my inside, and I noticed that by drinking the tea and it started to get into your system, I didn't have to take the Tylenol for fever because the fever would just, it would suppress the fever. So again, those are some of the things that I find that work for me. A lot of tea, and that helped me through. Ginger tea as well, but this tea from India was very um, good for my body, and it helped me. Uh, my family really rallied around me, and Donet's family as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
They, were in touch with us, and we just thank God for them, and for what God has done for us throughout this period, because There were times, and I'm being honest, I felt like we were not going to make it. Um, but because of the assurance that I was awaiting, um, and I want to say this, and somebody might says, well, really? Yes, I think that COVID, it has a tendency, as Donald was saying, that there are times when you feel good and there's another time when you're so sick. It probes your body and it looks for weak spot. I believe that because there were times when I felt like something is just probing my inside, just searching,
To
just go
attack
to attack an
any weak
area
spot.
that is weak. There's another thing too that one has to be careful of is the psychological effect, because we all know, for me anyways, we all know we've been hearing bombarding on the news every single day about COVID from all the news channels, how many people are dying. So that psychological effect was affecting me somewhat because I'm thinking, well, because there's a couple of my co-workers, one at least I know as a co-worker, the guy was up and about and jovial and nice, and he's not an old guy either, but he had an underlying problem, and he had COVID, and he didn't make it. He passed away. So all of these things, when you're going through the process of COVID, the psychological effect of all of these things affects you as well. So when somebody's going to say, I'm not going to debate whether it was manufactured or where it came from, that's fine. You can debate that. But one thing I want to say,
It's
it
here.
is real
And
and
it's
it's
here.
here and it
And we have
will
to deal
kill
with it.
people. Kinds of people running around, coming
Posting.
up, posting all kinds of theories about COVID, and they're not doctors, and that they're not qualified um, medical experts. Leave that to the medical expert. Our job is to make sure that we take care of our bodies, wash our hands, um, sanitize the area where we are at, and take care of ourselves. Eat properly. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for um, taking this time that you can go through our experience, our testimony with you. God is great. He's a great healer, and we thank Him for the opportunity that we can come to you and share our testimony. We thank God we're alive
Yes.
and we're doing well, and God is great,
Yes.
and we're going to continue to trust Him. Thank you very much.
Trust
Be
Him.
blessed.